It's reporting rooted in fact, not opinion. Rescan your channels and watch Scripps News right now.
Count on Local 3 News for the local stories that affect your life.
If life feels overwhelming or painful for you, physically or mentally actually, maybe you're a first responder struggling with post-traumatic stress, you may have heard about the work they do at Scenic City Neurotherapy to help people get their lives back. And maybe this morning will be the time when hearing from Charles Miller is just what you need for your life. He is back as he is every month, and we kind of thought we'd go back to the ABCs of this a little bit because people do hear about Scenic City Neurotherapy, but they don't always know how it works and why it is so helpful.
Well, we oftentimes equate it to, say, physical therapy or psychotherapy. It's like we're working on the neurons in the brain. We stimulate neuronal regrowth. We do it for many different conditions, everything from mood regulation issues like mood disorders, or like with traumatic brain injuries, stroke recovery. It's all about just rebuilding the way the brain speaks to itself and to the body.
Because the brain is capable of that. It can go through its own version of therapy. But people, I guess you kind of get conditioned by what you grow up with, what you hear about all the time. So even still for people, this is kind of a new way of approaching it.
I like to remind people, I said, while it's been out for nearly 20 years in the greater world of medicine, it's new to Chattanooga. It's only a few years old. Less than 5 years at this point. And it is, but even in the greater realm of medicine, 20 years is not very long.
So let's talk about what the it is. There are really a couple of different things that you do. The primary one, though, are these ketamine infusions, right? You are a nurse anesthetist by trade, so you kind of learned the power of this years ago. You wanted to pursue it, and you see miracles happen all the time.
We've known since the 1980s, old anesthesia journals that we studied about how ketamine stimulates a process in the brain that connects pathways between brain cells. That's when it was first revealed, but it wasn't looked at as a potential for treatment. We just thought of it as a side effect of an anesthetic we're giving. But what we found is that when we administer in the right way over the right period of time, we can actually cause large-scale neurogenesis in the brain, or the regrowth of connections between brain cells like we've never been able to stimulate before. And that's how this mechanism of action works. It's like upgrading the patient's ability to process the world around them.
I said in the beginning that people may have heard about you and that this could be the time when they're hearing from you and it's what they need to hear. I think you just mentioned the word side effects in a clinical or in the hospital setting. So some people might get hung up on that idea of, oh, I don't want a side effect. But what you're really doing, and you work in conjunction with like counselors, right, clinicians, you help people kind of speed up the process, if you will, of getting their mental health stronger.
I say to my patients all the time that if it, specifically from a mental health component, if this was a thinking problem, they would have thought their way out of it. It's not a psychological weakness, it's not a personality flaw. It's this patient's doing everything they can and not moving forward. And that's where we have a problem. It's just like running a marathon, but with a broken leg. You're working 3 times harder than everyone else and still falling behind.
Okay, what if you are a person who hasn't tried anything yet, but you don't want to be delayed?
This is not a last resort treatment. I think that people look at it as a large intervention, but the way we give the anesthetic, the way we do it in clinic, there's no potential for dependency, there's no need for a wean off, and the dose we give you is passive enough to give to a 3-year-old. In fact, ketamine is our primary anesthetic for children 6 months and older. It's our safest anesthetic. It's non-narcotic, it's non-opioid.
So what does it look like? We only have a couple of minutes left, but somebody comes in, I know initially they meet with you free of charge. You kind of go through everything with them of what to expect and hear their story and that kind of thing. And then do they come to you, how many times do they come to you, and what does it look like when they do?
Stabilization from a mental health component is usually a 6 stabilization infusion process, but that doesn't mean we're done after 6. Okay. It's all based off of the Yale study that was published back in 2011 that found that 92% of patients reach an optimal neuroregenerative ability after 6 infusions, meaning that that's a start. We catch up the deficit with stabilization, and then we do boosters periodically to maintain while the patient builds their own skills and to the point to where they get to the point of self-management.
When they come to you in those 6-ish sessions, can they drive themselves? Somebody has to take them.
They can drive there, but somebody has to drive them away. It's
Okay.
anesthesia, just like any other anesthetic. If you had a colonoscopy, you'd have to have somebody drive you home. It's
Okay.
the same set of rules.
Do they stay for a little while to be monitored?
Yeah, it's the process. We monitor until the side effects of the ketamine subside.
Okay.
And that differs for different people. Some people have to stay longer, some people, it just depends on the
You've
individual.
mentioned a few of the things that you deal with. I had mentioned pain. You do a lot with people with chronic pain, fibromyalgia, migraines, that type of thing that can be debilitating in your life. So here's how you get in touch with him, regardless of what your particular mental health issue might be. He might be able to help you. He certainly will, just by counseling with you and hearing your story. And he'll tell you honestly if it's a right fit for you or not. They're on Shallowford Road, 228-0579. If you're a veteran, pay close attention because he does so much work with veterans. He can explain when you call the number. ScenicCityNeurotherapy.com is the website. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
When it comes to updating the look of your home, Chattanooga Paint and Decorating has the right paint, window treatments, wallpaper,